The ego can be thought of as a set of enforced habits or of a set of entrenched habits of thought, which are the results of entertainment by invisible energy fields that dominate human consciousness. So the ego, or the thoughts you're having, all those are entertained by emotions. If you are experiencing a wave of powerful emotions, your mind, or the ego, which is an aspect of your mind, will interpret whatever you're feeling and it will rationalize your moods. Let's say you're anxious and you're about to meet somebody. You can sense that anxiety and you start to worry a lot. You start to have a lot of negative thoughts about your future encounter with that person, or maybe it's a group of people, I don't know. So, what are you going to do? Instead of focusing yourself on the thoughts, or instead of trying to talk yourself out of that mood, you're better off by placing your attention on what you're feeling until that feeling subsides. But the problem is that it doesn't subside immediately. It might take a while, and as you get closer to interacting with people, it might bubble up again. But your main task is to try to allow the feeling to manifest at its own pace, to unfold until it subsides. And you must do it for, let's say, 1,000 times. It depends on the person, but it took me a while to alleviate my social anxiety and to transcend it. Because I remember when I had to go to work, I was constantly anxious, even before arriving, even like when I was getting out of bed and I had to have a shower, I started to become anxious just thinking about being at my workplace. And that's the main thing. You might be using, or you can use this as an opportunity to transcend your social anxiety issue. That's how you do it. You don't try to force yourself to get rid of your anxiety because your emotions won't go away. They have a time span. When they get triggered, it takes a while for those emotions to get away from you, to deconstruct themselves, to consume themselves. And that's very important to understand, is that you cannot stop an emotion, you can only witness it and allow it to be there. And if you don't allow it, if you try to resist the emotion, it will get stronger and it will take you much more time to process it and to discard yourself of it. That's why it's very important to just witness your emotion. In this case, your anxiety. I remember when I had to meet people, even my girlfriend, I used to get anxious, and I struggled, I was fighting that emotion, and I didn't, I wasn't going anywhere because that emotion persisted so much. And the thing is that you're having all sorts of thoughts that she will notice your anxiety, she won't be comfortable around you, that she will ultimately break up with you or just leave you because you're making her feel uncomfortable. But she's not noticing that. She doesn't know that you're so anxious. So that's why you don't need to be worried. You just go out there and you allow the emotion to take a pace. And after a while, you will see that you will get better. But it's all about confrontation. Confrontation with your emotions. If you're not doing it, it won't matter because you will you won't be able to get rid of them. And that's the key. So if you try to understand the ego, you can think about the ego in terms of emotions, compulsive thoughts, instincts, impulses, and whatever it is that the body generates. That's the ego. It's very clear, but most people think about the ego as a concept and they don't really understand it. So, what transcends the ego? What is above the ego? What's beyond the ego is your consciousness, but you're not aware of your consciousness because you did not do consciousness work. You didn't try to raise the level of your consciousness as far as possible. So that's why meditation or just a concentration exercise can help you a lot with that. I remember in 2018 when I bought myself a chair, I wanted to meditate, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I just did it blindly, and as time went by, I noticed that my awareness increasing was increasing exponentially. In the first year, it was only trial and error, and I didn't see any benefits of the practice. But as time went by, I was able to notice that my awareness got stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's why it's very important for you to have a meditation habit in place, just to focus yourself on something for maybe half an hour or an hour if you can, if you're able to do that. It's very important. And if you can manage to do it, you will notice that over time you will become more conscious, and you will be able to understand the ego better, because the ego cannot be grasped only rationally. It might give you a vague idea of what it is, but if you become hyper aware, you will understand how the ego operates and how you can turn it off and even transcend it. And that's very powerful. That's why some people succeed in life. If you don't transcend your ego, you will never be able to succeed in life. And that's a guarantee. I can absolutely guarantee that if you won't be able to transcend your ego, nothing will help you. And that is because you won't be able to focus, you won't be able to um you won't be able to maintain a healthy diet, to not have cravings, to stop drinking coffee, for example. And I'm not against coffee, but there is a dimension of the mind, a dimension of consciousness in which you don't need coffee or cigarettes or sugar or alcohol to feel good about yourself. So, unless you transcend the ego, you won't be able to succeed in life. It's very important because your ego holds you back. Your ego wants to maintain homeostasis. It wants to preserve itself. And how are you going to read a book and remember that information if you are always having negative thoughts or compulsive thoughts, or the ADHD mind in which you're unable to focus, or if you're going to be distracted a lot, like scrolling mindlessly through your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed, or just like watching a lot of short videos. That doesn't do anything good. So it's not good for you, it's not good for the people around you, because if you don't try to do something better with your life, you're not going to be of use for people. Anyways, what's important is to do some consciousness work, and thereafter you will understand how the ego operates, how you can let go of the ego, and what you must do to transcend it over time. But don't overcomplicate things. It's just like you have to have in place a daily meditation habit. If you don't like the term meditation because you believe it's too spiritual, try to focus yourself for 30 minutes on your breath. Just flex your concentration muscle power. Just focus and focus and focus until you reach the flow state, that zone in which you can focus effortlessly. That's what you must do to transcend your ego and to expand your level of consciousness. It's very important to focus a lot. Once a Zen master has said that, what's the secret? Like a student asks his master, like, what's the secret to enlightenment? And the master said, attention, attention, attention. So that's why it's important. And I won't go into the details because I don't want to make this video very confusing to you. But if you start it and if you are going to meditate daily, I can promise you that you will see results. And for those who are only into science, you can search online about the benefits of meditation, because there were scientists in the United States and they went to East Asia to bring some Olympic meditators, like, those monks that all they're doing, that they sit and meditate every day. They brought them into the United States and they used there's I think is fMRI scan, and they had their brain scan, and the impact of meditation was profound, and they couldn't believe it, like all those benefits. But anyways, let's continue. Um, they become reinforced by repetition and by the consensus of society. he's talking about those energy fields of the ego. What you see around, what you think about, that in itself reinforces your ego, those emotions that you're experiencing. Your thoughts are fueling your emotions. And the use of the pronoun I as the subject, and therefore the implied cause of all actions, is the most serious error and automatically creates a duality of subject and object. If you say, I am that, you become your ego, you become that which you're stating. I am that. You identify yourself with a thought and with your ego. So we can differentiate between the small self, which is the ego, and your true identity, which is your conscious awareness. If you can silence your mind, you start to realize that you are not who you think you are. Like the ego, your thoughts, your emotions, or everything that the body projects, or your mind, your imagination. In terms of the ego, you're not the ego. And that's very important for you to understand. So this paragraph is from David R. Hawkins' book, and I tried for a while to contemplate it, to understand what the ego is all about, um, in terms of the knowledge that I had and the experience that I have with meditation. And I realized what the ego is, so it's very important for you to do it too, to meditate a lot, and thereafter you will realize that your ego is just a false conception of yourself. And if you can transcend it, your life will get a lot better and everything will be joyous for you once again.